How much did you find this being really, the first, long, full-length piece that you were working on? How much did you find yourself involved in? You mentioned costumes, but in just even hair length for Graham, that kind of thing. That I found so much micromanaging that first time that, and part of it was just because you knew that you would do it. As you mentioned in an interview I read recently about Schizopolis, it was like I knew I would be there as an actor. I could count on myself. And how much of that happened here for you?
We had a really good group of people, small but good. And the only thing I really worried about was not falling behind, really. Everybody, I didn't have to do too much. I would with stuff like the costumes and things like. There was a perfect balance of, hey, let's put on a show, and yet enough people to execute.
Right.
Because at a certain point, if you're not delegating, then you're not being responsible. You're spending your time doing shit that other people should be doing.
Right.
But this was the perfect balance to me, because I did some stuff, but I didn't do too much.
So he came in with the hair, said, I like this length.
Yeah, and I said, that's fine. And we had a really great hair and makeup team that we were fortunate to get. They were sort of overqualified, but hadn't keyed before. They'd been assistants on some pretty big movies, and they wanted a key credit. And we got them for nothing, and they did a great job.
That's what's wonderful. I think at this level of film, you find people who are making that jump often, with you, and you just have this collective group of eager people who, realize that this is everybody's shot.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun to give people a leg up, know. And on Kafka, Gavin Bouquet, who was the production designer, who did an amazing job on the design of the film.
Absolutely.
Had been an art director prior to that, and I met with him and had seen the stuff he'd done, and I just thought, this guy's ready. And
it's
now,
gorgeous. Had he worked in black and white before?
No. And now he went on from that. I remember having a conversation with him after Kafka ended, and this has nothing to do with sex lives, but stay with us.
Well, you have the movie to watch.
Yeah, exactly. After Kafka was done, he said, hey, George Lucas wants me to do the indie TV series, and I'm wondering if I should. I said, I don't know, it sounds like a good opportunity. Well, he went and did it, and of course now he's designing the 3 Star Wars films.
Fairly good decision.
Yeah,
on his part.
I think so.
Now it's the hands on the wine glass. I've been asked to ask you about.
The hands on the wine glass, which comes a little later. Well, that's a classic case, and I know you've been through this too.
Well, you're not shooting with 2 cameras here. You're shooting.
No,
one camera.
We're shooting with one.
And you've got everything on the table except for maybe a cigarette that can go wrong.
I know.
Levels of drink, all those things.
Well, the thing is, though, you learn by trial and error that when an actor's doing something that you like, that you haven't told them to do, that you cannot ever call attention to it or they'll ruin it.
Right.
It becomes conscious. And so she just started, after a couple of takes, at a certain point to kind of, focus on this wine glass, although clearly not consciously. And I didn't want to, I could have said, hey, you did it a different, in this take you did it at this line, but I decided not to mention it at all because I felt that she really wasn't aware of it. But I've had that happen before where I say, hey, I really liked where you did this little thing, and on the next take it's completely dead.
Right. It's a showpiece.
Yeah. So you have to be careful. Encouraging, but, in a kind of vague way. I'm good at being vague.
Continuity is such a killer, though, but it's it adds that little flaw to the masterpiece that makes it human.
No, exactly. I
saw Deliverance recently, and Ronnie Cox, his hat is off and on in the first sequence of Rapids.
Right.
I've never noticed it before, but suddenly there I'm just, and then I start staring at it.
I'm a big believer that it doesn't matter that much, and I would never. I know there are people that focus on this and they write into Premiere and the Gaff Squad and all that. I don't care, and I think you're right. I think it does humanize it. I remember, Stanley Kubrick, right, the most obsessive compulsive filmmaker of all time.
Right.
There's a scene in Clockwork Orange at the writer's house where Malcolm McDowell's eating dinner, where the wine glass, from shot to shot is going up and down.
Oh, and how about the cigarette in the beginning of The Shining?
Yeah, right.
Just it's the
and who cares? Rehearsals for me are not about exploring the piece. They're about finding out how I can communicate
Absolutely.
with the cast, because I need that shorthand.
How much did you have on
We had a
this?
week.
A week. Did you find that enough or not enough?
Yeah, it was plenty. We did read throughs. We read scenes, and then we did improvs. Just long improvs, which are, not a huge amount came out of them, but they're fun to do, again, so that the actors and you get a sense of, what they're like to deal with. And improvs are very revealing in terms of telling you where an actor comes from.
We had a situation this last piece that I just did. All of the actors, we were out in Los Angeles shooting it, and we all went up to Arrowhead for like just a weekend,
Right.
and just had a sort of retreat. And it was everything from jumping in the lake and playing football to having read-throughs, and that was like a quick way to make that
And this
communication.
you were
open.
all clothed.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It was pretty much.
Nice.
But it was interesting, because I'm nostalgia Kinski, someone I'm used to seeing in tests, and then it was like, hey, go deep, for
Yeah,
a
right.
pass. And that was an odd sensation as well. But I mean, it really, coming back from that, people were really ready to, be friends and make a movie, and it was a good experience.
Everybody's different, because I remember I'm working on this book of interviews with Richard Lester, and he is exactly the opposite.
Really?
He likes to have them show up, the moment the camera's about to turn, and see what happens. And clearly that works for him.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just a different way to go.
I could see that, thinking of like Hard Day's Night or something, but I'd be amazed to see how that would operate in a piece like, The Musketeers, because it seems like it would take so much control, and there's just so much going on with the, costumes and the
Right.
historical, somewhat accurate, and all of those.
No rehearsals, either off the set or on the set. They show up and they start shooting. And
Wow.
you look at his movies, and he always gets great
performances, yeah.
So everybody's different.
Peoples them with very good people too.
Yeah.
So that's the old adage of casting,
Absolutely. If when I was thinking about the movie, when I was thinking about the writing of it, and there's the story of, I wrote it in 8 days, which technically is true, but I thought about it for a year, literally. Had notebooks full of ideas, and the video camera just seemed like the best device to use, the best external device to use to show how somebody keeps other people at arm's length. 20 years prior, it might have been medium cool, with somebody with a news camera or a still camera, but it just seemed like at the time the video camera to me was on the verge of taking over that, role. And while we're at Cannes with the movie, 2 days later, the Rob Lowe thing breaks.
Oh God!
And he was sitting behind me at the screening.
Squirming
at Cannes
would be the word.
Somebody said, and this is perhaps apocryphal, somebody claimed that after the screening that he said, damn, why can't I get parts like that? I'm assuming he meant role. It was just one of those funny things when people say, gee, why do you think the film did this or that? And it's timing. It's just something was in the air.
Really?
And
Well, I read some other brief notes about just how fluky things can be in terms of, not even in terms of Sundance, but with Cannes, like a change in the head of the jury, all those things that work in one's favor.
Well, they did in our favor.
You were in another section, in fact.
We were in Director's Fortnight,
right?
And another movie dropped out of competition, and we got stuck in. And Gilles Jacob, who's a very nice guy, actually told our French distributor, we'll let it in. Of course, this film couldn't pretend to have any chance to win awards or anything like that, but we'll let it in. As you learn more and get more into the process, I missed the energy and the passion that you have when you're still an amateur. And I was thinking the other day, I remember when Brazil came out in 1985, and I saw it 6 times in 12 days. And I missed that combination of having no life and and being so movie nutty
Yeah.
that you would do that without hesitation. I think now I can't imagine doing that. Part of it is time, but also part of it is you don't have that same, kind of naive enthusiasm that,
No, I know
that
exactly
you started
what you mean.
with.
Yeah,
and it's sad when you lose it. I mean, it gets taken over by something else. But I miss that.
Yeah, and finding something that you love, like that movie, for instance. I remember when Reds came out. I saw Reds a total of like 13 or 14 times in the theater.
Yeah.
And it's almost
That's a
4
long
hours
movie,
of your
yeah.
life at a chunk. But it was just there was always something exciting in it for me.
Yeah, I miss that.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll go see your movie.
Maybe we'll do the DVD of Reds and
Yeah, sure.
talk through that a few times. This is so great. That
Oh,
shot of him and then this silent.
Well, there was a classic case, and Godard used to do this all the time. Not that I'm him, but at the end of that scene, we had a bad audio transition, and so Larry and I decided we would just fade out the audio and then fade it back up when it got decent again. And Godard used to do that all the time. You look at his early movies, and there are these great, hilarious, odd effects, whether editorial or audio-wise.
Well, that's the trick always. Is
That are clearly just there to mask some imperfection.
Make all the economic choices look as if they were artistic ones.
Exactly.
I saw the reissue of Contempt. Within like
Yeah,
last
me
year,
too.
which is so beautiful. And in that brilliant section in the middle with Michel Piccoli and Bardot going back and forth throughout their apartment,
Right.
and there's the camera crew that goes by the window, but there's that flaw. You're like, and he's so deconstructive that way anyway. You don't know whether he meant it or not.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, we know it's a movie and it's beautiful. Well, in terms of production value, though, what's really refreshing, you see in this film is there's not that sense of I'm making a movie that's very intimate and I've got to find how many ways can I open this up. You're not afraid of scene after scene that's interior. There isn't, we see her outside walking to this bar and there's scenes in the car and all of that. But there's never that sense that, I have to place this scene in the park just so people think of it as a movie. I'm not one to. I've seen some of the best plays translated into film, I think, haven't really made that nod. You look at something like Streetcar, it's all a set, whether they're outside or inside. They don't worry about that sense that people will find it too claustrophobic.
One of the few movies to find a really good balance of that is Virginia Woolf, which they opened up a little but not a lot.
Right.
And what they opened it up, but there's still nobody else in the movie.
Right.
Basically, I think the bar tavern keeper and his wife are the only other people that you see in the movie.
And again, Nicholas, in Carnal Knowledge, there's literally those 6 people who speak. That's it. And he gets around it brilliantly with Carol Kane, who has one of the best parts and says nothing watching that slideshow.
Right.
Amazing moment.
I remember this was a hard scene for me to cut because they overlapped a lot, and I let them overlap, and I always do. And when I was cutting it, I was kicking myself. Not that I would have done it any differently, but I just remember, I was sitting. I cut this on a 2-machine, 3/4-inch news editing thing by myself, just sitting in a room. Cut it
online.
That was it. Cut it in a month.
Where did you cut?
In Baton Rouge.
You did.
Shooting out of sequence is so scary.
It's amazing, when you talk to someone who's just a film watcher, just even sometimes avid, they don't realize how things are often shot out of sequence, and that there's not 2 cameras on a lot of times.
Right.
That you're going back and recreating that. And one of the ways I found it most amazing was like talking a restaurant into shooting, and they think literally the 5 minutes on screen is how long you're going to be there. And 8 hours later they're just